Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Under the Canopy with myself, Russell Owens, and, as always, the amazing Mark Goldberg. Welcome, everybody. We have a very special guest with us today, but first, make sure to follow us on all the streaming platforms under DGP Works. You can find us there. Also, the Dynamic Green Products USA YouTube channel for this version of the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify or all the other places, you already know where to find us. And as a special shout out today, I wanted to make sure we mention one of our sponsors here. That's right, Booty Fire. Booty Fire, the purveyors of the most amazing hot sauce and seasonings you will ever find in the marketplace. So make sure to check them out, booty-fire.com. Find them there. All right, and on to our special guest, Stephen Marmon. Stephen is a Libra who likes long walks on the beach. He was born and raised in California, so that's where the beach comes from. He started off as an apprentice mechanic at the last Chevron in California that had an attached shop, something I want to definitely make sure to ask you about for this, Stephen. And also continued on through work with rental shops like All Star Rents, where he was sales and fleet management, responsible for acquisitions and divestment strategy, and then also repairs, and along the way became general manager. And then moved on over to Cowline with working with brands like Bandit, RC Mowers, and Toro, all the big guys, and started immersing himself fully in the arbor care industry and enjoys, as myself, and I'm sure Mark, the old-timey values of this industry, the integrity, hard work, honesty, and the generational family aspect of this industry that the green industries are all about. Stephen is also a proud part of the arbor care industry in general, and he's looking forward to many more years of serving the industry. As you can see, he's probably in his, what are you in your 20s there, Stephen?
47.
27, nice. I think Mark's 26, so that makes me the old guy in the room. All right, sweet.
Yes.
Make it happen. Well, thanks for joining us, Stephen. I appreciate you taking the time to join us over there from California.
Glad to be here.
So my first question for you, because I have to know that there's a lot of younger guys, I'm sure, watching this, guys and gals that'll be watching this. When I mentioned that whole thing about Chevron without an attached shop, they kind of did a double take because many people might not, if they're under, I don't know when that, maybe you can help me with that time frame of when that happened, but there's a lot of people that are in their, I'm sure, 20s at the very earliest that don't remember that Chevrons or Texacos, Texacos aren't even a thing, but had shops, right?
Right. Yeah, it was 94.
94.
94 was the last. I don't officially know it was the last one, but as far as I know, it was the last one. There might have been a few stragglers after that, but it was one of the last ones, and it's now a convenience store.
Is it still a Chevron, or is it just a convenience store?
It's still a Chevron. Yeah.
Okay.
Still a Chevron.
Gotcha. So instead of having a couple of bays, it has Twinkies and
Yeah, it's still the same shaped building too. You can see where the bays used to be. So we had one of those with the little kiosk in the middle, with cigarettes and stuff hanging up and Snickers bars in the windows, little like 4x4 shack the guy was in. And we had one of the little ding ding, the car pulled in, we had full service. So we go out and check the oil, and we charged an extra 30 cents a gallon, I think, to wash your windows, set your air pressure, and all that. So yeah, it was a legit shop. I loved it.
Nice. So we're starting off with that. We're starting off with the mechanic. How did you get into the mechanic side of it? Was that something you wanted to do back in school? How did you work that part of it?
Growing up poor, mom had bad cars, had to work on them. What are you going to do? Yeah. So that's how I kind of got started. I have an aptitude, and I happen to be lucky to grow up near some people that, had some pedigreed training and were able to take me under their wing and show me a few things early on.
So would you consider yourself a gearhead back then when you were in school?
I'm not really a gearhead in the traditional sense. I mean, a lot of people talk about modifications and things like that. It's not my style. I'm more into keeping things stock and keeping them running as long as possible. I think that with, there's a trade-off, there's a balance between reliability and performance. So as reliability as performance goes up, reliability goes down in most cases. And so I'm more in tune with how long can I keep this thing working and working to its peak efficiency.
Well, I think with the older, especially with older cars, I love older cars, but I like them as they were. That's my, it doesn't have to be all crazy. I mean, there's a special place for drag cars and whatnot, and
Oh yeah.
But I just love I love the old school style.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love motorsports. I mean, it's just not my style of wrenching.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Exactly. So walk us through that a little bit. So you went your mechanic side, and now arborist. Where was the in between there? As far as working in the arbor,
it happened really quick. I went straight from one to the other. Boom, boom. No, it's I found myself in the equipment industry as the shop closed down. I had to go somewhere. There was an equipment rental yard just down the road, which eventually became All Star Rents, but at the time was the rental center of Davis. And I didn't want to just get a job at the movie theater again, which was awesome, by the way. The movie theater in my retirement, I plan on going back to the movie theater. We didn't do
Nice.
much, but we drank soda, ate popcorn, and watched movies. That was the cornerstone of our life at that time. Well, there was another hobby that we had, but I won't get into it. And so it goes well with popcorn and movies, though. I found myself working in the rental industry, got acquainted with machinery, found out that the technical knack that I had for vehicles also translated well to machinery. So I got involved, and then through a series of events, went through rental yards, dealerships, and equipment manufacturers until I ended up at Cowline, which was they checked all the boxes for me in the sense that it's a reputable firm that carries a top level product. I wanted to be top tier, and Bandit chippers are definitely best in class, as are RC mowers and Toro. So
Oh yeah,
I felt really
absolutely.
fortunate to find such a great opportunity with such a great firm that I
Yeah.
can be proud to represent.
Now,
So
for those in the listening to this who may not be familiar, because we kind of cover the whole spectrum when it comes to different industries within the green industry, can you talk a little bit about Cowline real quick, as far as just kind of what Cowline's about?
right, so we're the Bandit dealership for Bandit chippers since 1986. So we're not only the biggest, but we're the best Bandit dealer in the world. We do trade back and forth with another company on the East Coast that rivals us. And I think a couple times it's been a dealership out of Australia. But I would think that more often than not, we have the trophy in our dealership. And so a really proud history there, going way back into the 80s. Clearly the industry favorite when it comes to durability and longevity and performance. So it's not necessarily the favorite in terms of market share, but the people that know. And so I'm proud to represent Bandit in that way.
So, Mark, bringing you over into this, you've been waiting so patiently to jump in. I know. How did this connection happen with
Yeah.
you and Stephen?
Yeah, no, I met, so when I was not in the municipality side where I'm at now, I was in the private sector, and I stepped away after 20 years of being an arborist, and I'm still an arborist, but I stepped away into the manufacturing rep position for a company called Dynamic Green Products, and obviously DGP. And one of the first contacts and then one of the first people I've reached out to was Steve, and through another connection and walked into his location here in the San Diego area, and we just hit it off, and he gave DGP a shot, and really was for me an opportunity to grow DGP, but it was also a place where I did a lot of the marketing, a lot of the promotions I was doing it with DGP at the time. Steve was great, man. He's like, "Yeah, you want to use the parking lot? Sure. You want to get behind a chipper? Sure." It was perfect. It was a win-win, and we built not just a business relationship, but a really good friendship.
Here, here.
How long you guys known each other?
Like about,
That would have been what,
yeah,
late 22,
yeah. So about, yeah, probably 4 years at
late
this point.
22, early 23. So
Yeah.
coming on 3 years.
Right on. And Stephen, what's your, because obviously you're in the sphere of arbor care. What really gets you into that part of it? What's your drive?
Well, okay, so generally I've been around construction machinery most of my life, but I did dabble in agriculture for a while. And agriculture struck me as one of these industries that, like you had mentioned before from my bio about the generational, family values that they're handed down, and I had never really gotten immersed into the arbor care industry up until I started at Cowline. And what drew me in very quickly was a couple factors. For one, it's the old timey values, right? It's the hard work, and watching that pay off. So watching people branch out and go out on their own and start their own arbor care company. So I was able to witness that and see that manifesting itself before me. And then the more I got to know people, the more I saw it was very akin to the rental industry, where I was very grateful to have grown up in that industry and that we share freely. So, for example, a rental yard can be fiercely competitive with another rental yard, but when we get together at industry events and we're over a few cocktails or whatever, we're more than happy to say, "Hey, what are you guys doing?"
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong; it's not what do they call that, collusion? Not about prices, but it's
sure,
more
sure.
about like, hey, what are you paying your employees? Where are you guys buying trucks? What are you running? Are you doing Bobcat? Are you doing Toro? Like, what are you doing? But what was your revenue last year?
Yeah,
Are
market
you
trend type
profitable? Are
stuff.
you open book? And I
Yeah.
found that arbor care companies are very traditionally open like that too. I've been able to I come up with my own formula. I ask how many crews they have on the road, and I know now what to multiply that by. And I say, well, and then 90% of the time they're open to sharing that. And I think they share that amongst each other. And there's not to say there's not fierce competition, but the camaraderie seems to outweigh it. And so that was huge for me,
Yeah.
was just to watch how well people work together amongst their peers. And so I'm I'm I no longer have the dubious luxury of the young people to want to be in an industry that's cutthroat. I don't want to be any part of that anymore. I really want to work in a more cohesive, symbiotic kind of environment, and I found that to be true in the arbor care industry. So that helped quite a bit. And then what was really really interesting to me was I would go to tree climbing events. And I don't know. I mean, obviously I know what tree climbing is, but I had no concept of how many various events that they would be judged and competitive in, from the beanbag launch over the highest branch to, how fast you could get up there and, flick a pine cone or whatever. I was like, ooh, you got all these bases covered. I was really impressed. But it's a family event, right? There's all these kids running around. And so two things that struck me. One is that I had healthy snacks and unhealthy snacks, which I always do at all trade shows. I have healthy and unhealthy options, right? So I got cookies, pies and cakes, right? All that stuff. And then I have bananas, apples, stuff that's granola bars, maybe on the healthy side, about the worst you could get. And more people racked through the healthy side. I would have to run and get more fruit every night, and I'd still have a bunch of Nutty Buddy bars and oatmeal cream pies left over. Red vines. Red vines actually were a hit. And but the other thing was about how these kids would come up and they'd be like, "Can I have an apple?" "Oh, of course you could have an apple." And they go, "Thank you." You're talking about a 4-year-old kid comes toddling up
Yeah.
and just the most polite. But it wasn't just like one off. It was consistently every kid. And I went, there's something going on here, where I've been to other trade shows where people come, the kids come in and go, "What's for free?" "Let me get a hat.
Oh,
Let me
yeah.
get a pocket knife. Let me get what do you got? Magnets, keychains?" And they grab a handful of friggin' Snickers bars and they bounce out, and I'm like, hey. So I just noted pretty quickly the difference in the culture from and I'm not going to talk bad about any of the industries I've been in. I'm just saying there's just, just a notable difference. And so that reminded me of my time in agriculture, where people are more in tune with what's healthy and what's, good for the environment, and what's, important to all of us, not just what's important for me. Right. So it kind of bodes well for the industry in general, that people care about the longevity of themselves, their employees. The safety is a huge part of it. There's all these things that just speak to me and made me really proud to be part of it.
Oh, absolutely. Mark, from your aspect of it, from going, because you've kind of gone through the different sectors of arbor
Yeah.
care in the different places, with your relationship, finding a good relationship with a dealer, with someone who's going to get the equipment you need and everything.
Sure.
Obviously, you have a great relationship that you've built with Stephen. Where does that where does that come from on the tier for you, as far as how important that is to an arborist, to somebody out there listening who is
Yeah.
looking at getting into the game?
Yeah, I think I think relationships, and Russ and I, we kind of spoke about it on our last podcast, is relationships when you're in an industry, those relationships are huge. And it's going to start with your dealers, from equipment that you're going to get, could be, where you get fuel, where you're getting your ropes, where you're getting your oils, to who's training your guys. It covers the whole gauntlet of things. And it's really important to have those relationships, and they're built on trust, right? So I've reached out to Steve in the past and many other vendors that I have really good relationships with, and they'll pick the phone up and have a discussion with me, understanding, you know, no sale is going to quote unquote come out of this. We'll down the road, but it's more about, hey, I have a problem or a question, and they're going to help you out. And then down the road, those relationships and that trust is what builds up business, right? So I've had discussion with some other folks in the industry that I've used on the private sector, where I've built a relationship after a couple of years, and I didn't buy anything for almost 2 years, and then all of a sudden, damn, I bought a sump grinder on the private sector. It was because, over the course of that 2 year period, they were more than willing to take phone calls and help me out, and we built a friendship, a really professional business relationship, but a friendship. We're friendly, and it turned into, really a trusting relationship, and that in itself is something that I think for me, especially in this industry, and I've been doing it long enough, where I rely a lot on the relationships I have for me to grow within the industry, you know?
I would concur with that. And I wanted to throw a shameless plug in there that
Please
about
do.
95% of what you said was important is available at Caline Equipment. You mentioned training equipment,
Caline Equipment.
rope, like
Caline
all that
Equipment,
stuff, all
located
available
in Thorough,
right here at
California.
Caline Equipment.
I was gonna say, what's the address, Stephen?
But we have 4 locations in California and 3 in the PNW. So we have 7 locations on the Pacific Northwest or on the West Coast. And so we got Seattle, Portland, Spokane, Sacramento, Livermore, LA, and San Diego.
Oh, speaking of which,
Wherever you
while
want.
we're talking about the shout outs and things, how do they find if they're looking for Caline? How do they find the website and all that?
Yeah, www.calline.com. So www.calline.com with a hyphen in between Cal and.
When on your side of the relationship, where how do you go into it every day when you got somebody walking in the shop and they've got questions, they need something? How do you approach that after spending all these years kind of moving through the ranks, doing different things within all these different places? How do you see it now?
Okay, well, for one, I have the luxury of having the best support team ever, right? From my salespeople to my parts department and my service department. So it really frees me up to actually get to spend time with the customers and get a chance to know them and what their business is about. What's important to them. The needs of the customers become the needs of the dealership. And that's what we want to be here for, is to be a solution. We're trying to be solution based, consultant based. So, generally speaking, I run right out there, shake their hand and say, "Hey, I'm Steven, what can I help you with?" And they, either here for parts, service, or to look at machines. And so I turn them over to one of my professionals and, just kind of stand there and stand back. I'm really privileged to work with all of my salespeople are fantastic, but in particular, anybody with the last name of Knoll. So this started by Dennis Knoll, and then Denny Knoll took it over. And there's 3 of his sons that work in the business. So there's Hunter, Tyler, and Gavin. And I've worked with generational families that have worked. So I've met families that are Bobcat dealers or Kubota dealers that, grandpa started it, dad built it up, the sons are salespeople now. And I admire all of them for what they're worth. I've never met any family that was as well suited for a very specific industry as these guys are to chippers. It's incredible. And so I've learned so much from them. And I get them involved as quick as possible, and they understand, it's funny because they make jokes, about, they pointed out some dealer in Montana that brought in this chipper, right? And they were laughing about how, why would you bring in a 21-inch chipper with a grapple on it in Montana? And they were all kind of joking about how silly that was. And I'm like, I don't get it, I don't get the joke. And they all understood immediately, they know because, in Montana, you don't need a grapple because that's for city work when you bring a crane over and drop it in the street in front of the house or whatever, they're just so well suited for this. And so I have a lot of professionals that, combined experience. We have, centuries of combined experience at this point. And we're talking about some kids, that are in their 20s that have been doing this since they were, preteens. And then not to mention Denny. Denny's been doing it for about 150 years. And then we got Scott. We have long timers. One of our guys, beloved Lee Brown, just retired after 30 years or something like that, give or take. Sad to see him go, but happy for the next chapter in his life. And, it's just it's a real proud history here. And so I use the opportunity of having those, that kind of horsepower behind me to free me up to go out and, do what's important, which is to make the customer be understood and really have their solutions, have their needs met. That's my ultimate goal. And I'm proud to say that in San Diego, I was able to start clean slate. And when I left there, and I can't think of a particular customer that didn't leave our building satisfied. Well, I can't think of a single one that I would point back to and go, "Oh yeah, he was pissed." I look back at every single one. I can walk up and look them in the eye and shake their hand and ask them how their machine is or how their service was or whatever. And I think that's a real source of pride for me. So I want to make sure the customer's needs are met in a nutshell.
Steve, what you mentioned too is service. Well, I think service is huge. I think, when you buy a product and then you can go back to where you bought it and it can be serviced and it can get turned around quickly and you get it back out there so you can produce more work. That's huge. To have a piece of equipment and something goes wrong with it and you don't have that, if a company doesn't have that service side of things, it just doesn't, it's not in the best interest of the customer. So service is huge to me when it comes down to this industry for sure.
After sales support is our main focus, right? So, the machine the prettiness of it, the performance of it, and the pricing of it. The three P's right there: prettiness, pricing, and performance. And those are what sell the first one, but it's after sales support that really sells the next five, right? And so we
Yeah.
focus a lot on that, and we want to make sure that people are satisfied with their purchase. And luckily, I mean, again, when we do a demo with a machine, that's we get you behind the wheel of a Bandit chipper, and the results speak for themselves. And so they're just so well built. So all machinery breaks at some point, right? I mean, it depends on
Yeah. Oh,
maintenance,
yeah.
it depends on abuse, it depends on a lot of factors.
Well, I mean, chippers take a lot more abuse than the average piece of equipment.
Just inherently in the way they operate, yeah, they do take a lot of abuse. And I'm proud to say that Bandit chippers break down less frequently than some of our competitors, but they do. And so it's how quick can we turn it around? How quick can we, and so we try to offer training, we try to offer maintenance packages, we try to offer all of these solutions, to maximize uptime. So the idea is, and I take it very seriously, especially with the companies that own one or two chippers, right? When that chipper's not working, there's three guys that ain't working. Right. And so, I mean, or at least they're working double time, loading logs out and trying to get them out of there, so we take that really seriously, not to say we don't give that adequate attention to the larger fleets as well, but generally speaking, the higher horsepower fleets, they have, more machines to draw from. They could say, okay, instead of three guys, we're going to put four guys in each truck today until we get this chipper back or whatever. So the urgency level is not as gnarly. Whereas, it's owner operator chipper. Yeah, we take that really seriously. We got to get that guy back in the field and working as quick as we can.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They do have, the difference between an owner operator and a larger company. The owner operator doesn't usually have a couple of pieces of machinery in reserve or able to split the guys like you just said. So that's a good
And
point.
for that reason, we're starting a rental program too this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're starting a rental program. A certified arborist only. Well, okay, let me rephrase it. Our criteria is going to be certified arborist or at least a licensed contractor. So it's not open to the general public. So Johnny Hummel can't come and rent a chipper and see how many telephone poles and spikes he can run through it. Right. It's just professional arborist only, basically.
That's a really great idea.
Yeah, I love that idea. And the fact that you having those credentials behind it of, so where it's not just somebody, so quote, weekend warrior coming out to throw themselves into a chipper because they don't understand how they work.
Right. Knock on wood. Right. But yeah, and that's generally the theme, is that we want to make it so that the machine functions and operates as it did on the first day.
Nice.
And we're not going to step on the toes of our beloved partners that also rent. Right. So in certain geographic areas, we have partnered with companies that do rent Bandit chippers. And in in that specific area, we're not going to rent the same types that he rents. Right.
Gotcha.
So because
Cool.
we do value those partnerships. And we know that,
yeah.
For many years to come, that they're going to continue to buy Bandit product from Calline, right? So we're not gonna step on those toes.
For sure. Mark, do you have any super technical questions for Stephen at the moment?
For Steve. No, I don't.
Do you want to know how many horsepower?
I'm not that guy who's going to be asking those questions. So just don't worry about it, Steve. Don't sweat over there.
Yeah,
sure,
I said, I don't memorize the specs. I have the best sales team. That people go, what are the engine options on this? That's a great question. Let me get one of the Knoll brothers over here.
Stephen,
Talk to you, and they'll rattle them right off. Well, that
health?
machine weighs about 4,800 pounds, and you can get it in 49 horsepower, 74. I know the majority of the ones that we sell regularly, but I don't clutter my brain up. Like, listen, man, I'm too old. I don't need to.
Well, that's why you said earlier,
stuff.
you got a great team with you. That's kind of the whole point. You got, when you have that net to be able to work on, you have all those different people. You have the people who are experts on this part and that part. I mean, that's the way it should work.
I'm the guy that hands out hats and coffee and stuff like that. Like they can talk specs all day long.
So, Mark, with your relationship with Stephen, is there, when you're having those discussions with him, are there like times right now where you guys know each other for a few years, you're out at the campus, you're looking at some things, you go, I need to give Stephen a call and find out what we got going on. Is that like the type of relationship you have with him?
Yeah, and it could be about other equipment that he may not even carry. But hey, do you know somebody that you can point me in the right direction? Because trust the advice of those people that you build those relationships up. So you definitely, I'll call and ask one-off questions, climbing equipment, and now that Calline's got, you guys are bringing so much equipment, climbing equipment in house now with Doug Wright. I mean, it's really it's almost become a one-stop shop. I mean, the prices are beyond competitive, and to know that I can drive down the road and pick stuff up, that made things a lot easier too. So, and I know it makes it a lot easier for other folks I've talked to in the industry that you guys are available in the San Diego area for sure.
So is that so? The with the climbing equipment is, you know, as a total, obviously you've got the chippers, you got the other equipment, and then you've got the climbing equipment. So are you all kind of, you know, focused on, okay, what other pieces can we bring into the puzzle for this industry?
I mean, you should mention that. We actually just picked up a new line, and I was green lit to talk about it today, which is a line of aerial lifts, spider
Oh,
lifts, they
nice.
call them, or atrium lifts as they're called, right? So they fit through a 36-inch gate and go up 80 feet.
Yeah.
So yeah, CMC, we are another dealer for CMC lifts.
Nice. All right.
And if I'm wrong about that, I'll have you edit that.
You'll have until 5 minutes after the show.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Thanks, man. Go look it up. Yeah, so now we're the dealer for that. So now we're Toro compact track loaders. We're RC mowers, which is the highest performance mower on the market, and then banded chippers, which speak for themselves.
So is that the lifts, is that going to be part of the rental thing that you've got rolling out as well? The only reason I ask, as far as like, because one of the things I've always liked to do in the industry is not just this industry, but with like lawn care and everything else, is that it's always nice to rent a piece of equipment that I'm thinking about buying, so I can see, you know, if it works for what I want to work, you know, that kind of thing, kind of like test driving, basically.
We're happy to come out and demo any of the products that we carry at no
Gotcha.
charge. But I do firmly believe that we will be able to rent those machines.
Sure.
I don't see why we won't, but I'll have to circle back to you on that.
No, yeah, no problem. We're not going to hold you. Well, I won't hold you to it. Mark will, because he's going to be the one walking in the door, wanting them.
The tens of thousands of people that listen to this might
Just
be
to let you
calling
know,
me
guys,
anyting.
I'm taking
phone's
notes
ringing
right
off the
now,
hook.
so
Hold on.
I'm writing this down.
Yep. See, Mark's already got his list.
And that's great.
With the lifts, is that something that, because you said it's newly rolling out, do you have like kind of a date on that? Like a just
I don't know
ballpark?
when the inventory will be in. I
Okay.
can't say yet. I know there's some demo units already in California, and that the factory is very excited about working with us. So I don't anticipate it'll be very long before we have one of those lifts available. And it's the industry leader in the Arbor care industry, at least in California. More people have CMC lifts than any other brand that I've seen. So they're out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen a few of them. This last couple of weeks, especially out here, and I'm in North Carolina, and we had, you know, all the ice and stuff come through, and so there's been a lot of tree work happening in the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks out here.
You can imagine. And yeah, it's my understanding that those type of lifts are even more popular in the East Coast, than they are here.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, well, especially there's a lot of, I mean, it's a lot of trees, but a lot of getting in and out and around and under, you know, a lot of these different the different yards and things. You have to be able to get through gates and get around, but just mobility really is the key.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So it makes sense. What about Mark? Are you you look like you're getting ready to jump into a lift. Are you?
You don't, Russ, let's be honest. I'm not jumping into any lift. I'll be asked to maybe purchase a lift, but yeah, you want to keep me away from equipment as much as possible. I know where I sit, so for sure.
That's right. Mark just has he has his rope, his single rope, and his spikes, and he's ready to go.
Nice.
Doing it old school.
I like it.
So what's your what is your favorite? I know you're not like out, you know, in the trees every day, Steven, but you've been around this enough. What is your favorite piece of equipment that you guys have?
The Bandit. Okay, so it's not technically a chipper, and it's my favorite one to operate is the Bandit 1425. It's a horizontal grinder, and I just love operating that thing. It's really sweet. It's really a mulching machine, right? It's a regrind machine that you can put chips into and make mulch and the colorizer, but it's just a lot of fun to operate. It's like a video game. You kind of have to really be on your game and watch what you're doing. So I like that one. Whenever there's a demo for a 1425, I'll do it. I'll go. But our flagship model is the 12 XPC, the Bandit 12 XPC. It's the best palm chipper on the market, which is great for California, especially Southern California. And it's just built like a tank. It's got all the features and benefits that really set Bandit apart, which is, the first one being the twin feed rollers, right? The sliding box twin feed rollers. So the geometry of the roller stays, parallel to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Being on a pivoting arm where now it changes the geometry of how it's pulling. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the advantages of Bandit. And it just chews it up, man, and spits it out. It's just a great machine. I love it, and it throws good. It fills the truck nicely. It's a great machine. All our machines are.
Sure.
I'm partial to the 12XPC. We have a new model now, the 12XC, that some people were complaining that our higher performance machine was slightly more expensive than the nearest competition. And we said, well, yeah, we have all these features and benefits that, the other one doesn't have. And they said, well, we don't care. We just care about price. And so we said, okay, well, we can dumb it down, for lack of a better term. And so we did. So we came with a 12XC, which has a 2-knife drum instead of a 4-knife drum, right? So that's one advantage of the 12XPC, has 4-knife drum, right? So now there's a knife every 90 degrees of rotation. So there's no deadheading, because that'll slow it down more, right? Because you're deadheading into the drum until the auto feed kicks, and then it backs up a little bit, right? So the 12XC has a 2-knife drum, and it also has a single feed roller, which is on a pivoting arm, right? So that's one.
Yeah,
of
a few different.
Yeah, and it puts us more in line with the other one, and we can just be far more price competitive comparing apples to apples now. And from a performance standpoint, it still eats the lunch out of anything, any other machine that we put it up against. So we'll do the Pepsi challenge any day. Anybody wants to do the Pepsi challenge, we'll do it. So we'll bring our machine, you bring yours, let's see what happens.
Well, is that something that you run into at the shop there? Do you have people coming in and they're wanting, the Cadillac because they don't care about price, and you're like, hey, that's probably not what you need. Like, I mean, do you guys kind of research and figure out what they're doing, or
yeah, all the time? We got people coming in that, they go, oh yeah, I want to get this machine, and I want this feature, that feature, this feature. And we go, you might want to take a look at, this machine. It's certainly more affordable, and that actually just happened the other day, and he still elected to go for the higher performance model, because he told me what he was doing. I said, the 12XC is a perfect candidate for you. And he goes, I'll take the one with the double feed rollers. Don't worry. We'll write you up, So yeah, that worked out really well. So yeah, again, we want to be consultant based, right? We don't want to just go for the throat. Hey, I got this guy on the edge, man. Let me knock him off a dime. Nah, man, we're here to be a partner for you in the long.
You've got
and
it out.
That's why I'm so proud of our sales staff, because they really know what to talk to you about, right? To make you at ease with the purchase that you're going to make. They know what's the best suited for your customer base or for your particular business.
Well, I was just going to jump in and say, I think the winch for where I'm at now, and then over the last 5 or 10 years on the private side, has been such a huge factor to have on a chipper. I mean, just
Oh yeah.
it's the fact that, I remember beginning of my career, it was just like you would drag stuff and you got to pick it up. And I'm just like, now it's just like throw it on the winch. It's like, man, I could have used that about 25 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know what it was like 25 years ago, but I mean, at this point in my career, 15-inch log, I'm solid, man. Let me get that Toro over there with the grapple and I'll feed it in there.
There you
But
go.
like, what do you want? You get this side, I'll get that side. No, forget about it.
I know. It's amazing what I look at I'm like, wonder how I picked half that stuff up when weighed half of what I weighed back in the day. And I'm like, I don't know how I even did that,
Yeah.
And now it's just like the equipment just makes it so much easier for the groundmen. Now it's great,
Yet somehow the ground crew guys stay in such good shape, and so do the climbers.
Yeah.
I went out and helped out at Bringle Terrace Park with some of the guys from West Coast Arborists and Bishop Tree Service, and there was a few other notable names that are escaping me right now. Sorry, guys. But and I was just out there helping, right, to clean up the park and make it look good, and I was humping brush out of the canyon, and it was brutal, man. After 4 hours of that, I was like, man, I don't feed the chipper for a while. This sucks, and I realized a couple things. One, you can't always pull on the right side all day, right? At some point I had to switch to the left. I'm like, wait, this is not going to work. It's not going to work out well for me. And then in addition to that, I just realized that it's how hard that work actually was, where it's not just feeding the chipper all day. You got to get the wood to the chipper. So
Well, Mark, how do we tie DGP into all this?
For us in a campus setting is, we don't want to be polluting where we're walking, right? We don't want to be polluting the soil with petroleum-based products and a bar and chain oil. So it's a real easy fix, and I'll keep saying it forever, is really it should be mandatory in the United States. And the fact that it's not, that, that you're still allowed to use a petroleum-based product in a bar and chain oil in the United States is ridiculous. And that needs to change. And it's a simple fix. And obviously one of the greatest products to me that you can substitute is a DGP product for that. And, the chainsaws run even better. and the science is behind it. We see it on the DGP social media stuff. We see it, it's factual science. I mean, that's my goal is that, eventually the United States said, yeah, I mean, if we care about the planet that we live on, small step forward, which is a giant step forward for our industry, is just get a get the petroleum based products out of the barn channel. That's a number
Yeah.
one start. Even before the battery operated saws, I mean, you got to start with getting the petroleum out of the barn channel, and I think it's a simple fix. It's just obviously there's we gotta sway a lot of people. I mean, everybody that I've talked to when I was on the DGP side in the private sector and I was pushing it, people loved it, and still to this day, people love the product once they try it. So, but we got to change the rules here for sure.
Yeah. And that was the what you sold me on too when you first brought it by was the environmental aspect. Miguel Salazar was the one who pointed out to me. He goes, "Look, even if you factor out the environmental aspect, let's just talk about the health concerns. If you're going through a quart of petroleum-based oil, 40% of that's slinging back on you. And
100%.
you're aspirating it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's becoming atomized in the air and you're breathing it. And that was something I hadn't really taken into consideration until he pointed that out. And I was like, that's a really, really solid point. I appreciate you bringing it up. So that's really, environment, I get it. And I'm all for cleaner environment. A lot of people bitch about the EPA, and I'm like, well, I'm pretty grateful that I can see across LA now. When I was a kid, we had lived up in the mountains in the East County, and when you drive down the hill, you were like driving into a sea of brown, smog. You could clearly see the
Yeah.
line, clearly see it. It's not there anymore, and
Crazy.
and water's cleaner, air's cleaner. I'm happy for those things. Do I think that the EPA could be a little less onerous on the end user? Of course, but that all that aside, and so appreciative of the environmental aspect, but also just the health concern of the operator, So
Yeah,
it's meaningful to me, and
100%.
I appreciate the performance aspect of it too. I was a firm believer early on that the tackiness of it, the way it sticks to the chain
Yeah.
better.
Oh yeah.
There's all kinds of factors about it that make it better.
And that was the first thing they talked about. Oh, it's biodegradable. I said, yeah, it is, but also this, and
Yeah,
I go
right.
into this other side story about it, and how it performs, because everyone wonders about the performance when you start throwing words like bio-based and biodegradable. They automatically assume that there's going to be a trade-off somewhere, and that's what I love about DGP is that there is no trade-off on that. It's both. You have
Yeah.
you have superior performance, and it's actually good for you.
It's a great product and it fits well with what we do. And proud to point out that it already matches the color scheme of our, Bandit's natural color is green. And so our company colors are green and black, and your guys' colors are green and black. So it fits well. And in addition to that, we can also anything up to a 55-gallon drum. We'll be happy to order it in. But we do carry on the shelf quarts and gallons.
Nice, outstanding. Well, Mark, do you have? We're coming to a close here on our wonderful conversation. Do you have any parting words, Mark, for questions for our wonderful guest, Stephen?
Do I have any words of wisdom?
Well,
I don't.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
How about a quote from your book, Mark?
Oh, a quote from my book?
Hey, there we go. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a good way
man.
to go.
That's a
We
lot
should
of
do that.
pressure on me, Steve.
I'll tell you what. While you're thinking of a quote from your book, Mark, I will ask a
Yes.
question of Stephen. That way, it gives you time. How about that?
Okay. Can I grab the book behind me?
Yes, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay,
It's
let
your
me
book. You
roll
can do
this
what you
way.
want
Hold
with
on.
it.
Here we go.
So Stephen, I got a question for you because I asked you about the equipment side of it. So you're around trees all the time. What's your favorite tree?
Okay, well, the live oak, right? I mean, I grew up on a piece of property where we had, hundreds of oak trees, and so I'm partial to oak tree. I think it's God's chosen tree, right? Because if you try to plant an oak tree, I've seen them. They do it all the time at parks. They're like, "Oh, we're going to plant these baby oak trees." Only like 10% of them make it. You can't plant an oak tree, but you'll go hiking and find an acorn that fell down into a crack between a rock and through this, giant, 4-foot diameter trunk of an oak tree that's 85 feet tall and has been there for 400 years. And it somehow just an acorn, bounced into this little crevice and made it. So I think that's a really
That's
special
true.
tree. That being said, though, my favorite type of forest is eucalyptus forest. There's just something special about eucalyptus forest. One, there's the smell. And then two, there's the, I don't know what it is about. I asked Mark this, if something in the leaves or the twigs or something. I've always heard there's some kind of oil in there that keeps other stuff from growing underneath those trees. So whenever you go to a eucalyptus forest,
Gotcha.
it's always just eucalyptus. There's never like, oh, there's a palm tree growing out of the middle of these eucalyptus trees. Not that I've seen. Oh, So I have two favorite eucalyptus forests. One is at UCSD, and the other one is at Sonoma Speedway in Sonoma. No one really knows about it, but there's a eucalyptus forest up there in the back hills, because they have like 40,000 acres there or something ridiculous. And so you can drive your side-by-side or your dirt bike out the back trails, and you'll stumble into a eucalyptus forest. And I've never gone to the eucalyptus forest and not seen an owl. Every single time I've been there, I've seen an owl at that eucalyptus forest, even during the day. So I feel like it's just a really special place.
Yeah.
So favorite tree, the live oak. Is that the right name for the species, Mark? The one that's all in San Diego?
Quercus agrifolia.
Well, thank you for that.
Sure. Well, yeah, throw that out there. All right, fine.
Yeah, and then eucalyptus. And Brian Bishop showed me, dang it, I'm going to get it, eucalyptus robusta, I think. And it's this eucalyptus tree that has this like really thick bark on it, like a redwood. And I'd never heard of it. And we were at Bringle Terrace Park, and he said, "You want to see a really magnificent eucalyptus tree?" And I said, "Sure." And he took me down the road, and it was just not too far away. And it was not a type of tree that he knew we would find in this area. No, he knew that tree. He's like, "Check this tree out." And he showed it to me. And sure enough, it had bark that was like 4 inches thick, and it came off in giant sheets, nice. And if I recall, would you correct me if I'm wrong, Mark? It's Eucalyptus robusta is the species of tree. Are you familiar with it?
I think you officially have me stumped, to be honest with you, on this one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd have to defer to Brian Bishop. But how many species of eucalyptus are there in
Oh man, hundreds.
Yeah, I think close to 1,000 I've heard. So,
all right, Mark, what do you got for us?
All right, well, no pressure, but we're going to go to quote 164. Chasing dreams is not crazy. Not chasing them is. So
it's solid advice. And hold up I know you got the book in front of you. Hold it up again one more time, real quick, just so everybody can see it. So there it is, An Arborist Point of View Under the Canopy from Mark Goldberg. Now make sure you can find that on Amazon, folks, so you can go get your own copy there. So speaking of making things happen, it's time to wrap things up here on the show. But I want to first and foremost thank you, Stephen, for coming on, for spending your time with us and getting us to know you a little bit better with our audience. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate you.
No, I was really an honor to be here, and I really appreciate you guys having me on, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to. Someday we'll have to come back because there's so much we can talk about. You'll definitely be. I can see you as a reoccurring guest for sure, coming back on to talk about other topics as well. And Mark, always a pleasure, my friend.
Russ.
Having this show with you. It was your idea for this show, this Under the Canopy show, named after. Of course, it's if y'all didn't put those two together yet, the name of the show is Under the Canopy. His book is Under the Canopy. You kind of
like
put two and two together.
Do the show without you and Scott.
Some relation there,
and the whole DGP family. So I'm appreciative of the opportunity to talk to professionals every week and have great conversations about anything under the canopy. So that's what's really exciting about this. So for sure,
absolutely. And for everybody listening and or watching, thank you for taking the time to do so and sharing and liking and all the things you're supposed to do these days with all the Instagram and Facebooks and things. But also make sure to check out changeYourOil.com to find all the products and information about DGP, Dynamic Green Products. And once again, also shout outs to, that's right, Booty Fire.
Booty Fire.
You got to check them out. Booty dash.
Expect some of that in the gift pack with the hat, by the way.
I will make it happen. I will make it happen.
You are
trying it out. Thanks so much, everyone. We will see you the next time on Under the Canopy.
Thanks again.